minutes to hear Substitute Senate Bill 5257, ensuring elementary school students receive sufficient daily recess. Before we go into the staff testimony, I will remind members, we just passed this bill, I think unanimously off the House floor last night. Hopefully you don't have questions about this bill. I will also make that observation to members who are coming forward to testify. We have 11 people have signed in wishing to testify, except for 2. Everyone is pro. So I am going to set the timer at 1 minute. Megan, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. By way of background, while school recess duration provisions are not established in statute or administrative rules, a nutrition, health, and physical education model policy and procedure was developed by the Washington State School Directors Association, or WASDA, that addresses recess issues. The model procedure, which schools may adopt, specifies that each school will offer physical activity daily recess opportunities that align with state and national recess recommendations and maintain safe and age-appropriate equipment to use during recess, among other things. Engrossed Substitute Senate Bill 5257 provides that, beginning with the 24-25 school year, public schools must provide daily recess for all students in kindergarten through grade 5 and grade 6 if students attend an elementary school. The recess must be within the school day and at least 30 minutes in duration, unless the school day is shorter than the regular school day as established by the school calendar. The Office of the Superintendent of Public Instruction may waive the daily recess requirements for the 24-25 school year if a public school demonstrates it is unable to comply. Recess must be supervised and student-directed and must aim to be safe, inclusive, and high quality as described in the model policy and procedure of the WASDA. Additionally, recess must be held outside whenever possible. If recess is indoors, schools are encouraged to provide it in a space that promotes physical activity. The daily recess requirements may not be used to meet physical education requirements. By August 1st, 2024, WASDA, with the assistance of OSPI, must review and update its model policy and procedure regarding nutrition, health, and physical education. This must make delineated requirements, including aiming to make elementary school recess safe, inclusive, and high quality for all students, requiring elementary school recess to be, whenever possible, scheduled before lunch, strongly discouraging the practice of withholding recess as a disciplinary or punitive action, except when a student's participation in recess poses an immediate threat to the safety of the student or others, and prohibiting the use of physical activity as punishment, such as having students run laps or do push-ups. By the beginning of the 24-25 school year, school districts must adopt or amend their policies and procedures to incorporate the WASDA model policy and procedure. I'll note that this bill is not identical to the one that passed off the House floor, but if you want specific information about that, I'll have to get back to you.
Thank you very much. We were going to ask that question. So hopefully there are no other questions and we can get to public testimony. Okay, Vice Chair Shavers.
Can we have Jared Mason-Gier, Roz Thompson, and Patrick Vincent come up? And can we have Michelle Nims, Billen Aiden, and Melissa Spiker remotely on deck? Thank you.
Please proceed.
Good morning, Chair Santos, members of the committee. For the record, Jared Mason-Gier, representing the Washington Education Association. We were really pleased to see that unanimous vote last evening on the companion bill. Clearly a great deal of enthusiasm and a recognition that this policy is a bit overdue. We would note just one, I guess 2 discrepancies between the Senate bill and the House bill and express our support for the Senate bill as those differences are reconciled. Support for the Senate bill, I think I might have misspoke. Excuse me. There's 2 pieces that are worth noting. One is the Senate bill expressly does require that recess, with a few exceptions, is held before lunch, and then also prohibits the use of physical activity as a punishment. And we think those are important provisions and would encourage, as the 2 bills are reconciled, that those be included back into the bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Roz?
Morning, Chair Santos and members of the House Education Committee. For the record, my name is Roz Thompson. I represent the Association of Washington School Principals, and we're weighing in as other today. We do support the bill, and I'm really glad you passed your bill off the floor last night because we like your bill better. There's a couple of different words in this bill that we're urging be amended. We know that recess is an extremely important part of the day. And in section 2, for example, we're urging you to amend the language to try to avoid the use of computers. I remember working in an elementary school, and when you have rainy day recess, you sometimes have kids that are doing those kinds of things. So the adults need flexibility in terms of encouraging that recess be scheduled before lunch. There just are staffing and space constraints sometimes for that. Also in section 3, we urge you to amend the language to delete the word strongly before discourage related to withholding recess for both disciplinary and academic reasons. The educational process often requires reteaching, and the same is true for behaviors during recess. If we are unable to utilize recess time to re-educate students about behaviors, we may be setting them up for failure. I'll get you that specific language suggestion. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Yes, we will look forward to that, receiving that. And let's move to Michelle.
Good morning, Chair Santos. I am Michelle Nims, past president of Washington State PTA, the state's largest child advocacy association. We have signed in pro on 5257, but we would like to call out one important concern. We ask that you clarify that any additional minutes for recess do not come out of minutes already allocated to lunch. The CDC recommends that schools ensure at least 20 minutes for eating lunch after being seated. In many schools, students are already having trouble eating during the time allowed, so to shorten the lunch period would negatively impact students. We would also like to share that we prefer this Senate Bill 5257. There's some stronger language in multiple places in the bill. A couple of those have already been pointed out. We like the language around it being inclusive, recess being inclusive, removing the dressing and undressing time, requiring recess before lunch, the words strongly and prohibits throughout, et cetera. So again, thank you for your work on this important topic.
Thank you, and with great apologies, I just realized we did not give the prime sponsor her day in the sun on this bill. I beg your pardon, Senator Nobles. Please forgive me. We will certainly set the clock to take your testimony.
Thank you, Chair, and I'll keep my testimony brief. Thank you, Chair Santos and Vice Chair Shavers, Ranking Member Rood, and members of the committee. Again, I'm Senator Tawana Nobles. I represent the 28th Legislative District, and you've heard really great testimony. I think the only thing that I would add is, as you know from the House bill, recess really lets kids build vital social skills. It allows them to be with their peers and be with their friends, but it actually helps them to do better inside the classroom. When kids get recess, they learn better, they concentrate better, they process stress better, they develop crucial problem-solving skills. And so recess is a critical component to improving social emotional outcomes, which is something that the legislature has been working to improve for several years now. Again, I'll keep my comments brief because I really appreciate those who have come to testify. I want to respect the committee's time, but I do ask for your support of this legislation, and thank you for passing the House version of this bill as well.
Thank you, Senator. Before we let you go, you have already heard some recommendations to amend the Senate bill. Others feel strongly that we keep Senate language. What are your thoughts on the ideas of amending the bill?
Thank you, Chair. If I can be honest, the advocates do like the Senate bill better. I've worked closely with the advocates of this bill and understand that there has been a House bill that has been moving, but the Senate version is what is preferred because it sounds like the House version is weakening some of the protections for withholding recess as a punishment and using physical activity as a punishment. So we'll definitely do whatever work necessary to make improvements to the Senate version. But I also have been trying to respect the work that the advocates have done on this legislation and be true to, what students absolutely need.
Thank you for that response. We may ask that you join in a conversation with the Association of Washington School Principals and members of this committee so that we can iron out what differences might remain. Thank you very much, Senator Nobles, and again, please accept my apologies for skipping right over your testimony. Let's move to Balan. Please proceed, Balan.
I'm so sorry. Can I go after? I apologize. I'm having technical issues.
We can see and hear you fine.
Oh, I mean,
Okay, we'll
Just
come
a
back.
minute.
Melissa?
Hi, my name is Melissa Spiker, and I am on the board of the Seattle Special Education PTSA. I am testifying pro for this bill on behalf of the Seattle Special Education PTSA because recess is where kids do some of their best work. It's an opportunity for students to engage in physical activity and play with fellow students. Aerobic physical activity is positively associated with cognition, academic achievement, behavior, and psychosocial functioning outcomes. There's clear evidence that links health and academics, and recess provides the student with the opportunity to exercise, thereby contributing to better health. And the better students feel, the more likely they are to pay attention and behave well in class. Thank you for your work on this bill and for making sure that our kids are well-rounded and develop their best ability. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Balan, are you ready?
yes, I apologize. My name is Bilan Aiden. I'm the Associate Director and Co-founder at African Community Housing and Development. I work with immigrant and newcomer families across the African diaspora across Washington State. I'm here to ask your support of this bill. Research tells us that immigrant youth have the least access to physical activity, particularly immigrant girls. The youth I work with struggle to find a safe place to play and be in active space due to living in mostly dense urban environments and sometimes unsafe environments. Our organization provides programming for youth to be active and enjoy the outdoors, but we can't serve everyone. Schools are the best place for youth to have this opportunity. School, including school recess, provides that safe space and time for kids to play, move, and build friendships. I hear from the families I work with that they want their kids to be more active at school and have plenty of time to play. This bill will ensure that all kids get that opportunity every day at any school they attend. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's go ahead and move to the next testifiers.
Can we have Matt Wood, Wendy Armour come up, and can we have Patrick Vincent remotely on deck? Thank you.
Welcome.
All right. Madam Chair and members of the committee, my name is Matt Wood, and I'm the health and PE teacher at Helen B. Stafford Elementary in Tacoma. I support mandating recess in Washington State. Schools like Stafford, a Title I school in the south end of Tacoma, are essential to a student's health and wellness. Physical education sets the foundation for physical activity in schools and is crucial to a student's well-rounded education, but PE alone does not provide enough time to meet the CDC's daily physical activity standard of 60 minutes a day. For my students and others around the state, school is the only place for them to have a safe and accessible environment to play outside. Therefore, increasing daily recess is an ideal strategy to help address the childhood obesity epidemic and mental health crisis in Washington State. The CDC stated that administering or withholding physical activity as punishment is inappropriate and constitutes an unsound education practice. Additionally, the Washington State School Directors Association noted that physical activity at school, including recess and PE, will not be used or withheld as punishment for any reason. We must prioritize our children's health in Washington State and give all students equal access to and adequate time for daily recess.
Thank you very much. Vice Chair Shavers, before we turn to others.
Can we have Carla Landis and Samuel Browd come up as well on deck? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Woods. Patrick, please proceed.
Good morning. Thank you, Madam Chair and committee members, for having me here today. My name is Patrick Vincent. I'm the principal at Union Gap School. I'd like to offer 2 points of consideration. Number one, I would like for this committee to consider adopting similar language to your House bill, which allowed for recommendations rather than requirements. For instance, recommending seems like clearer language than requiring where possible with regard to the recess before lunch. Recess before lunch has marked benefits. I think it's a great idea. But I would ask for language that would allow for local flexibility in adopting these leading practices. Number two, as a practitioner principal, any change to the master schedule, even down to a single minute, has significant impacts on buildings and their operations. So thank you very much for this consideration.
Thank you very much. And Wendy, please proceed. We can see you.
Oh, wonderful. Good morning. My name's Wendy Armour, and I am a parent of students in the Renton school district. And it is extremely important for me that you keep the part of this bill that strongly discourages withholding recess as punishment, because every student deserves the opportunity to have recess. And as a parent of a Black male child, I've seen firsthand how the psychological effects for withholding recess on children. Having to advocate for my child on many occasions and seeing that the Black and brown students are the ones that are most affected by the withholding of recess, and using it as a leverage for teachers to get more academia. It does not help the student. They need the recess to move around, and statistics show that having the exercise and being able to move around and recess allows them to have a clearer mind and the ability to learn better. So please keep this language. Please allow for not withholding any kind of recess for any reason.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Please proceed. Either one.
Okay.
We're running out of time.
I'll go quickly. I'm Dr. Sam Browd. I'm a pediatric neurosurgeon at Seattle Children's. Also direct the Sports Institute at the University of Washington. My colleague Carla Landis and I are here to support Bill 5257. Appreciate Senator Nobles for bringing this forward. As we see kids becoming more sedentary in their lifestyle, school becomes an important opportunity for them to get out and exercise. Exercise is obviously recommended by the CDC. You've heard this before. Very few kids are getting the recommended 60 minutes of activity. It's a great place for cardiovascular fitness, for mental health. It's been shown in all of our literature that it also improves school performance if kids are active during the school day. The question that was brought up around using recess as a disciplinary measure is absurd and needs to be removed from the bill. That should not be part of what recess is used for, to discipline kids or not allow them to have access to that. Appreciate your support of the bill.
Thank you. Carla?
Good morning. Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. I'm Carla Landis. I'm the Associate Director at the Sports Institute at UW-Medicine. In that role, I represent the Sports Institute on the King County Play Equity Coalition, which was referred to by Senator Nobles earlier today. The coalition's made up of 100 cross-sector organizations dedicated to making sure all youth have opportunities to be physically active and play. Our statewide recess supporters encourage the House to pass the strongest recess bill possible. We recognized last night the House passed House Bill 1504, and that version is slightly different than the one being discussed today. I'd like to point out two differences, some of which have been referred to earlier already. The House bill would only discourage withholding recess as a disciplinary or punitive action. It would discourage withholding recess as to give students time for academic work rather than strongly discourage. We think that's a weaker stance. It would also discourage the use of physical activity as punishment rather than prohibit the use of physical activity as punishment. And I just want to take a moment to reflect on OSPI's existing RCW and to quote, and I know I'm over time, but just to quote.
You are over time.
May I finish?
Please, hurry.
Requiring students to run laps, do extra push-ups for behavioral violations can lead to shaming students and loss of interest in engaging in healthy activities. Using physical activity in a punitive manner may constitute corporal punishment, which is prohibited under Washington state law. See RCW 28A150300 for more information. Thank you so much for your time.
Vice Chair Shavers.
Madam Chair, we have 290 total non-testifiers, 267 pro, 22 con, 1 other.
Thank you. With that, the public hearing on engrossed second substitute 52 to 57 is concluded, and no further business being before the Education Committee. The Education Committee is adjourned.